Eric Mangini. Eric, you know Belichick well. Could you see him leaving New England this offseason?
I told Rob downstairs, no way, no how. It's just not going to happen. He's got a situation right now with Tom Brady coming back where he's in position to compete for the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl again next season as long as Tom is there. He's got two of his kids that are working with him now, and that's a great situation. He can help them get established in the industry. I think this is going to be as challenging an offseason as he's faced maybe throughout the course of his entire career, losing both Josh and Matt Patricia, and also potentially Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach. The amount of work that he's going to have to do, plus dealing with the hangover of losing the Super Bowl, I could see why you would take a step back and think, maybe I can go do something else. But what are the hobbies? He likes to play a little bit of golf. It's not like he has a second business or, you know, he's taking up gardening. This is what he does. And he's got his family with him now, and that's a really unique situation. What I could see him doing at some point is moving into a GM, president-type role and moving away from the coaching.
I could. I just think
see him walk away.
Yeah.
This year?
Yeah. I've said maybe 40, 60, 50, 50. For the simple fact, we've heard information get out of the Patriots that we've never heard before. And Mr. Kraft has confirmed that he said, I would like to keep this thing together for a couple of more years, but we're going to have to get egos in check. He also said, I wouldn't say it's dysfunction, but I say there's tension. That article came out with Seth Wickersham wrote, and the first thing they did, what'd they do? Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick, and Tom Brady as united as they've ever been. Well, that's not what Mr. Kraft said after he wrote that letter. That's not what he said before the Super Bowl, that there was tension. He lost the power struggle. I believe he wanted to move forward, win, lose, or draw after this Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo because he had that bridge. And what Coach Belichick knows, he's been around, he's a football lifer, like you said. He doesn't have any hobbies because normally football lifers, football is their hobby. Breaking down tape, scouting and is their hobby. He had the bridge, basically 18 years to Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to have 5 to 7, maybe even 10 more years. So he had that Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers transition. He had the Joe Montana to Steve Young transition, although Steve only played a couple of more years with the concussion thing. He had that nice bridge. Coach Belichick knows. Normally when you have a franchise quarterback, all-time great, and you don't have adequate replacements, you struggle. You're a bottom feeder. Ask the Dolphins. Ask the Steelers before they got Ben Roethlisberger what it was like those years, Ben to Terry Bradshaw.
Bill told me when I took the head coaching job, he said, look, at the end of the day, you need to go home happy.
Right.
And if the position coaches and the coordinators don't like what you're doing, tell them to go get their own head coaching job.
Right.
He said, now that being said, at the end of the day, the owner needs to go home happy.
Right.
And if you don't like it, go buy your own team. So for a guy who his whole career has asked people to know their roles and do their job, I think that he's the same way. He has a role to do. He has a place to fit in that organization, and he respects the hierarchy. Does he always agree with it? No. Do we all agree with what our bosses tell us to do? No. But if you don't like it, you can go buy your own team. And then he's asked Tom Brady to do a lot of things that I'm sure Tom probably wasn't overly excited about. But that's just the way it works, and that's why it works. So I can't see him moving away now.
I believe it's more likely than not that Bill Belichick coaches the Patriots next year. And by the way, they are already Las Vegas favorites to win it all again next year. So the Lennon-McCartney relationship that is Belichick and Brady is pretty great. And to your point, when you have 2 of your sons working on your staff, that's pretty great. And he obviously likes living there and coaching there, so that's all great. But to Shannon's point, Bill Belichick also has 5 Super Bowl rings, and he has earned the right to prove that he could go win a 6th without Tom Brady. And I believe in his heart of hearts he would like to do that. And I believe the ESPN story by Seth Wickersham that was very clear, and it was nailed down, that Bill Belichick wanted to go forward with Jimmy Garoppolo. That was his hand-picked, diamond-in-the-rough, second-round quarterback out of Eastern Illinois. and he had become very close with Jimmy, and it sounded like, to your point, much closer with Jimmy than he's ever been with Tom. And I've talked to a number of Tom's close friends who say Tom's always sort of mystified by why he doesn't have any better social relationship with Bill. That after all the, what are they, they've finished 18 years together, and he has no real rapport or relationship with Bill.
Didn't they play one round like at Pebble or something?
They got paired together.
Right.
They didn't do it by choice. And that Tom's always wondered, why didn't he call me in the summer and say, hey, let's get together wherever, out on the Cape and play around golf?
You wouldn't do that with your quarterback?
No, look, everybody's different. I don't see Bill casually inviting Tom to a dinner party or something.
No.
You know, that's not typically how he operates. And look, you got to give Mr. Kraft a ton of credit, because back in the day, before Bill became the head coach, he went out on a major limb to hire him. So he had the one winning season in Cleveland. He gave up draft picks to get him. He took a tremendous chance on him, just like Bill took a chance on Tom Brady. And I think there's a respect for this whole progression.
In the 30 for 30 the other night, Bob Kraft says, I was seconds away from hiring Dom Capers instead of Bill Belichick. Remember, because it was so dicey whether he could extract him from his deal, and it took compensation, right?
Yeah, and it took, when we got there, it wasn't like there were any parades. Nobody was happy that we were there. Go look at the coverage. It was about as bad as you can get. But Mr. Kraft took that chance. He saw that, and I think Bill probably respects that and understands that everybody has a role if this organization is going to be successful.
Okay, but Mr. Kraft dropped the hammer on Bill Belichick and said, you will trade Jimmy Garoppolo at this deadline.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's right, but we all have bosses. And we all have roles to play. And if you ask people that you are in charge of to play certain roles and make sacrifices because that's your prerogative, then you better be ready to do the same thing if someone who is your boss asks you to do something.
Do you think Bill would like to win a Super Bowl without Tom?
Yeah, of course he would. It would solidify the legacy.
Yeah.
Because he's got the other part of the equation where he was in Cleveland and before Tom, where it was one winning season out of 5. Yep. So you've got that body work. Then you've got with Tom, if he could go win one without it, then there'd be no question as to why.
But see,
why things
when my boss been letting me do what I want to do for 18 years, and then he tell me no. Why are you telling me no now? I traded Drew Bledsoe within the division.
You did.
I traded Richard Seymour. I cut this guy, that guy.
That's arguably the first personnel decision where he said no.
Yeah, he's the boss. That, unfortunately, we all have bosses.
And by the way, the boss calls Tom Brady Tommy, right?
Yeah, but that's nice too.
But he's still the boss on eBay.
He's still the boss.
You can call him Tommy. You can call him Thomas.
Eric, thanks for joining us. Will the Cavs make a big trade this week? Chris Broussard answers that question next. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.